Welcome to the Notes to My Legal Self AI Insights, where law and AI collide. Get ready to level up your legal game with us. We've got career advice, cutting-edge developments, mind-blowing legal tech, and more. Know someone making waves in the legal AI world? Nominate them, or even nominate yourself. We love courageous souls. And don't forget, we want to hear from you too. Ask questions, drop comments. Let's build a community of legal superheroes. But here's the deal. We're all about to have a blast. AI may be serious, but we're here to make it fun. So buckle up, get ready to power up, and let's embark on this exciting journey together. Now, let's introduce your fearless host, Olga Mack. Get ready to dive into the awesomeness of Notes to My Legal Self AI Insights. Let's go.
Well, hello, everyone. I have a very special edition today. I'm not just alone. I am here with somebody else. I have a co-host today. Well, hello, Mimi. Welcome
Howdy.
to Notes to My Legal Self. It's good to have you. You and I and Humaira have co-authored this book, co-edited this book, and you are helping me today to co-host the show. Please introduce yourself for folks who haven't met you before.
Hey everyone, my name's Meme Woodyway. I'm part of the founding team of the AI legal startup Eversort and also lecture on legal innovation at Harvard Law School.
I love it. Welcome. I hope this is one of many episodes that we can co-host together. And it is a very special episode because today we also have the one and only Kat, who is like one of my favorite people, not just on LinkedIn,
Making me
on
blush.
the planet Earth. Yes.
Mhm.
I heart you both
I
a
heart you.
lot. Kat does a lot of things, but one of the things she did is contributed a chapter to this book. Kat, please introduce yourself.
I am happy to. So my name is Kat Casey. If you don't know me, perhaps you don't have a LinkedIn account, but I am a chief growth officer for a company called Reveal. But my true passion in life is I love educating people that the robot lawyers might be coming, but it's not that bad. I talk around the world about AI, risk, benefit, opportunity. And so when Humira and Olga and Meme said, hey, do you want to write a chapter in a book on legal operations in the age of AI and data? I said, heck yeah. So I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, let's give a credit where it's due. It was Humaira, who is a guilty party. She brought us all together. She enticed all of us to be here, and maybe next time she will join us as well. So really excited to dive into this book, and I'm hoping that Meme will be an active person in this conversation
Mhm.
with Kat as well.
I don't think we'll be able to shut him up. He's a chatty guy too. Trust me.
Yeah, no, especially, there's too much expertise and too much talent on this call for us not to be talking too much. So I'm excited for today as well.
Yeah.
Hashtag dream team. I like it.
Mhm.
Well, let's do it. So, Kat, tell me about this chapter.
So I want it to be real boring. And I thought, what is more e-discovery than dragons and Daenerys? And so I wrote an entire chapter using the metaphor of all of the gamesmanship and all of the different chess pieces that were in Game of Thrones to talk about one of my favorite topics, e-discovery, and how it relates to kind of this transitional moment in time, this generative AI renaissance, and the burgeoning development of the legal operations space. And so from I don't know, masters to monsters, I covered a little bit of all of it. Really got my inner dork on with that for certain.
I love that. I love little dragons. I really do want a few on each of my
One on
side.
each shoulder.
Right? I mean, perfect accessory. And by the way, we have Jason in the house. He has a question for Kat. How do we know that Kat is actually
I have
not
the best secret for you.
a
It's all
robot
the
lawyer?
typos. It's all the typos. ChatGPT doesn't make typos. I do. If anyone has ever read one of my LinkedIn posts in the first 5 minutes before I sneak back and edit it, you're like, what language is that? Maybe it's robot language, but I definitely that the typos are the dead giveaway.
Okay. Memi, what are your thoughts about Kat, the robot lawyer, or her expertise in Game of Thrones?
No, I've seen Kat in person enough at all the events we cross paths to be fairly certain that she is human, at least humanoid if she was, a robot. But when reading that chapter the first time, I was smiling the entire time because it is not a light metaphor. You really connected even like the nichest parts of Game of Thrones to e-discovery. And I loved that. And I was just curious, for someone to have that much passion around these kinds of technologies, yet to be so, knowledgeable on pop culture, like Game of Thrones. I was just curious about just you, Kat, and how did you get to where you are today, and kind of merging all of these, kinds of interests. And Jason doesn't seem to be satisfied with our answers, but that's life sometimes.
Well, it all started back when I was a tiny robot. No, I'm kidding. No, I grew up in a family of innovators and technologists. My grandfather created virtual memory. And so from a young age, there was like, Apple IIs, and at least there was tech and computers in my house. And so even though I studied existential philosophy, dead German angry philosophers, I was very tech literate. And so when I went to law school, I kind of navigated and gravitated towards tech. And so once I, was done with law school, I kind of slipped, tripped, and fell into this weird intersection of AI technology and law that is e-discovery. And that was almost 20 years ago. And it's pretty early in the process, I realized I had a comfort level talking tech that most, as in 99.9% of the lawyers I met, didn't have. And so I kind of just started educating myself in writing and speaking. And really quickly, probably I was still maybe 25, 26, so maybe 3-4 years into e-discovery, I just started building a reputation as someone who could take kind of, I don't know, no lawyer goes to law school to study relational databases, lambda calculus, and statistics, right? So to make the scary stuff approachable. And Mema, you're right. Like I love to use the lens of pop culture, of everyday technology we use all the time, because it makes it less threatening. If you're giggling about, a Targaryen versus, I don't know, a Snow or whatever, you're not really thinking, oh, I'm talking about the underlying underpinnings of the federal rules of civil procedure. It's a little bit more appealing. And that's evolved over time from just being straight up machine learning and e-discovery to now big stage, generative AI all across the board, trying to humanize and to make approachable these concepts that can be really unsettling for people, especially in such a time of transformation, of truly, there is a before November 30th, 2021, and an after. The world has shifted so much. And so I try to take that humor and pop culture and weave it together to make what's not every lawyer's favorite topic at least a little more palatable.
That's excellent. And I mean, I will say, leading with the fact that your grandfather created and invented virtual memory is not helping the you're not a robot, but we'll leave that to the side.
I mean, he coded me very young. I was
When you are a teeny tiny baby robot. I'm just shocked to know that robots go through the same growth trajectory as humans. That's a new thing to me.
Uploaded me into a different form every couple of years. Oh, she needs 6 more inches.
Well, thank you for educating me. I totally love that. I feel I've grown in the process.
I think the hashtag for this should be hashtag not a robot, or is she?
Well,
you're not helping yourself here, Kat.
You act like I don't like that. Like I went on the speaking circuit for almost, I don't know, 5 years about my theme was becoming Iron Man Esquire. If that's not a cyborg that's trying to convince you to be one too, I don't know what it is.
And I like how you talked about, the before times a little bit of, before this chat GPT hit the scene. And, you've been an AI advocate for the last 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on the kind of hyperbolic growth that we've seen in AI adoption the last 18 months? And has anything surprised you?
All of it. I mean, I've been pushing the rock up the mountain for 20 years and suddenly it's moving. It's interesting. There's 2 ways I can go with it. On the one hand, it could be that, hey, in the hype curve, everyone's like, oh, we didn't hit the trough of disillusionment. I kind of want to be like, weren't we in that from 2007 to basically present? Because there was TAR and machine learning and data visualization and people weren't using it. Or I can go on the flip side, which is what I heard one keynote say, when you're looking at comparing this technological innovation, what is the best analog? Not the internet, not the printing press, fire. They think it's so transformative to how humans interact, live, and evolve that it's as transformative as fire. So either we skipped the trough of disillusionment, or this is just so different that it broke Moore's law, it broke the curve, it broke everything, and we've got to figure out together how the heck to navigate it. I can go either way.
Yeah, fire is good. I mean, fire is pretty good. I tend to be closer to a wheel. but we can live with some fire in our life. That sounds good too. Kat, I want to talk about, people ask me a lot about what keeps me up at night. I tell them I
Mhm.
sleep quite well. I do. And no one can wake me up, not even my children when they're born, not a cat that needs to be fed. I sleep just fine. But let's phrase it this way. There's a lot of challenges and opportunities when it comes to Gen AI. What keeps you up at night, or at least what occupies your mind early in the morning?
So it doesn't keep me up, but it's curious to me. I'm curious about who the winners and the left behind will be because this is so transformative. There was a McKinsey study saying something like 18 million jobs are going to be displaced, primarily with higher skilled workers. There's been studies saying as much as 60 or 70% of legal work could be automated. So we're looking at a little bit of an existential crisis, not an evolutionary one. So I'm curious about what I can do and how I can help people make sure that they are part of the vanguard that's driving ahead and that's embracing the new technology. It's robot lawyers aren't going to replace us, but people using technology that you need to start learning how to use today definitely are going to replace you. So it's how can I help people like get over that fear and get over that inertia. I mean, the biggest battle I've battled in getting people to be all in on AI hasn't been fear, it hasn't been risk or ethics. It's been inertia. It's been people I've been doing it the same way forever. Why would I change? And so it's how can I speak to those people? How can I kind of get them to realize that one, this is a fundamentally different pace of adoption that we've ever seen, double exponential is what I've heard. Two, that it's not just changing the tools you use, it's fundamentally changing information retrieval and how humans interact with technology. And three, you should have already started. So let's get going. And so that's what keeps me up, which I guess is sort of a big, long answer for how do I help people ride this crazy wave, I guess.
I'm just happy that I'm not the only one who has an existential crisis periodically, more than, not as often as once a day, but more often than never.
Mhm.
So I'm really glad that this is the technology that brought everyone on the same page.
I feel your pain.
It's not a pain. I'm proud of it. I'm a proud owner of that joy.
Well, you have to have a little existential crisis. Who I am, who am I? What am I doing? How are we navigating this together? I like it. I'm there with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, while we're kind of looking at these existential crises on the horizon more vaguely, I'd love to get a little bit more concrete. I mean, we're looking at a massive uptick when it comes to visual and video generated AI. What impact do you think is that going to have on legal, on discovery, on the upcoming election?
Oh,
So
election. We're talking about election. Whoa. Whoa.
you're gonna ding the algorithm. Shh, don't do that. No, I mean, there's something called the liar's dividend, right? And so that is the idea that as we kind of go past that uncanny valley as AI generated content, whether from Sora or from all those little applications that people can use and deepfakes, as those get better, people lose faith in every visual thing they see. You saw that with, I wrote an article about it, the whole Kate Gate thing with Kate Middleton when she photoshopped, I think, a tooth or something, a hair on one of her kids, and people were like, it's AI generated, the princess is missing, tinfoil hats were on, and people were like ready to break down the palace walls. The poor princess had to actually go make a YouTube live proof of life stream, right? And so I think that as generative AI gets better and more user accessible, because you don't need to know calculus or statistic or linguistics to be able to access it, trust in all visual content is going to erode. And you're already starting to see that with a couple cases. There was one with Elon Musk where it was a wrongful death around autopilot for the cars. There was a claim that the case he made that certain public statements he had made were deep fakes. There was a similar thing for one of the January 6th people saying, oh, that wasn't really me in the video, that was a deep fake. You're starting to see people weaponize this liar's dividend, this lack of trust in visual evidence, to bottleneck the legal process by writing motions and making, affirmative defense that wasn't me. It was all deep fakes. And so what you're going to see, I think, is an entire development of experts that are having to go in and authenticate and validate and spend more money to say, hey, no, this video of reality is reality. And then you're also going to see a deluge of actual deep fake information. You're already seeing it with political conflict. You see it obviously with elections. It's everywhere. And the barrier of entry is a very low, basically free access now to whether it's ChatGPT or Dolly or Midjourney or Lenza or Sora, if you're lucky. I don't have Sora yet. I'm not part of the team. Soon.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that we'll have rules of evidence to be amended because we used to think that video and picture evidence is some of the best evidence that is hard to question. I think we're definitely trending toward the world where this is no longer nearly as believable as we used to think. We have some comments around mindset and how important that is and being sort of adaptive to changes.
Mhm.
So Kat, I'll let you take, both of this or either of those because they're somewhat related. And maybe if I am a lawyer trying to sort of augment my mindset or become more adaptable, what are the things and steps I can take to actually get there, on a timeline at which AI is developing?
I have a couple suggestions. One is like find a tribe. Like even us three, we're dorks. We like this stuff. We're reading about it all the time. We probably are still struggling to keep pace with the velocity of new information. So befriend people that are in the know in different areas. Maybe you have someone that's in contract analytics. All right, Mehmet, great. Or you've got someone that's, doing research and scientific development and working at MIT, Olga, right? Different people that can kind of help you get up to speed. So find your dorks. I'm self-describing as a dork. I volunteer. But also just be curious. What I tell people is to use generative AI. I mean, I go there before I Google now. Use it for low risk things. Like if I need to know what are the 10 best places in some new city I've gone to get food, or I need to know how to fix something. I was doing a keynote with Zach Abramovitz. He wanted to improve his brisket making game. So he took pictures of his brisket. He was like, ChatGPT, how can I improve it? Kristen Sande had to write something for, I don't know, some teen magazine. And so she's not a teen. And she's like, well, here's my essay, ChatGPT. Can you make it sound like an 18-year-old would want to read it? And so just start using it for low risk stuff and figure out if and how you want to use it professionally. But every blog I write, every article I write, every research I do, I'm probably got ChatGPT open, I don't know, hours a day at this point. And it's just about learning and refining the art form that is prompt engineering. That's not as intuitive as people think. It's not like the Google, I'm going to say as few words as possible with 5 typos and hope for the best. And so you need to start learning those skills. And if you're really uncertain about it, start small. Start with, it's going to be baked into your iOS. It's baked. You got an application for 6.5 billion people can access it through the Android and the iPhone store. The barrier's lower. And so while that barrier is low, before it becomes so baked into everything we do, start refining those skills and find a dork. The dork is the big one.
For the record, I don't want to be objectified as a dork or a geek. I want to go by beauty. If we're gonna go that route, let's keep it real.
My brain is beautiful. The dorkiness is very sexy. That's high praise. I had to work hard for that for a long time. When I first got in the space, it'd be like, oh, you're 20 and you don't know what you're talking about yet. No, I embraced the dork. It took me 2 decades to fully realize I'm self-actualized in my dorkiness.
Mehmet, no pressure to take a side.
Yeah. I'm. It's far for me to objectify anyone, right? So I think we're all kind of unique folks, but I think what's dorky today will be commonplace tomorrow. The folks who were playing on their computers, 30 years ago and super interested in it were all labeled nerds, and now everyone's on their phone all day and no one thinks of anything, of it, right? And so I think it's just being ahead of the curve, right?
He's just a well-married man. He didn't take a side. He made a neutral statement. I love it. That's why I like it.
This. Yes, and we're beautiful and brainy. How about that? Beautiful and brainy.
That's exactly it. What's interesting though is Jason's comment, kind of bringing it into law school, right? And turning it and talking about how we learn as 1Ls that, and folks can read. I don't need to read what's written, right? But it's all rules driven and rules based. But how there's an art and strategy to things, right? And how the AI side might be changing the science of, if this, then that from a rules perspective, but the art of argumentation, of, persuasion, of strategy is maybe even going to become more important as, we go and have the AI do more of that kind of rules-based stuff. Any thinking there? Because I feel like that, on my side with contracts, that's important, but I'm sure with e-discovery, that's going to be that art versus science is important in law too. Curious about your thoughts on that, Kat.
I mean, I think that GAI is fundamentally augmenting our ideas around signal and noise and information retrieval. And for a lot of people that went to good law schools, ended up with a good firm, you have this pattern of success. You've done well, and now you're getting hit in the face with generative AI, where failure is part of the game, in the sense that your first prompt is never going to work. The feedback loop and the synthesis between you and the AI, and kind of figuring out the right way to ask questions, it's a feature, not a bug. And so I think that's been hard for a lot of people to get comfortable with. And so having, courses in law school would be great, but we don't even have e-discovery courses at more than 15 or 20 law schools of all of the hundreds, thousand in the US. I don't know if we can realistically expect law school to fundamentally change their curriculum, but I guarantee every student in law school is ideating, researching, structuring their essays using generative AI. I think that there probably is some middle place where it's, certifications. I know MIT has a great one. I think Harvard has a few. There's free ones, Coursera, and Google even has some to bridge that gap. I don't know if it's realistic to expect that law schools will move quickly enough to incorporate it, but I think the students are going to themselves. I think we're going to have a whole cohort of 1Ls and 2Ls and 3Ls the next, couple years, who are savants at prompt engineering. And honestly, I'm seeing a lot more law firms that are asking me. MoFo wants me to do a prompt engineering course. I've had other ones that want me to come in and literally just run workshops. Like, okay, how do I go from I'm Googling badly to I'm getting results that are sort of what I want out of generative AI, and kind of boot camping that way. So
I love it. Moving from I'm Googling badly to being AI proficient. I love that. That's like a stretch goal right there. And speaking of prompt engineering, Bill, I think has a great question about how important it is now. How long will it be important? Is this a point in time skill? Is this something worth investing your time? Kat, I'm curious, actually, maybe as well, how are you guys thinking about prompt engineering? Because I found myself in many circles debating, is this a skill? Is that a non-skill skill? Is this a point in time skill? How much you invest in it? Like what is the level of commitment? How are you thinking about it?
it depends on what you're looking to do. I think if you want to build like bespoke taxonomies and really complex contract analytics sort of stuff, or bespoke models and direct API, that's very different from being functional and able to do some research with generative AI. On the image generation front, like you can start very basic, have a cat that's in a picture in this style with these colors, or you can have a, 500 character response. And so it depends, I think, how sophisticated the prompting for what sort of output you're looking for. But on the flip side, I think everyone needs to know how to prompt. I think there's a baseline level. It's sort of like Googling. You needed to understand that skill to use a whole host of other different tools and technologies in your daily life. And I think it's similar.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think of it as like, even if you think of like computer languages like C++ today, right? It's at its core level still just zeros and ones. But as you get more advanced, it's like these zeros and ones I can put in a string, right? And so, like, if you look at how people are using ChatGPT now, a lot of them who pay for it will have like a base prompt of like, this is how I want answers to be, like do it like this, like, so when they ask questions later they don't need to put that full prompt in. So I do wonder, on one end, as these tools become more advanced, how much of those almost base prompts going to be baked in, so you don't need to do all that tailoring to get to the kind of answers that you want to get to. But then, and then ultimately, as these tools, and as Kat was saying earlier, these capabilities can be baked into more and more technologies, right? It's going to be more normal to just have conversations with different websites and technologies that you're on. And as that becomes more normal, we're all going to get a little bit better at kind of prompt engineering. But I just think of it as ultimately it's communication, with a computer. And so we're going to be conversing with computers in ways that are a lot more advanced, moving forward. And yeah, ultimately, we're always going to be prompt engineering. But I think right now, the skill sets that people are kind of gaining, I think it is right to be skeptical as to whether or not you're going to be doing it this exact same way in a few years, right?
Yeah. I mean, all I know is that Boolean proof is really helpful when you do research, and frankly, Googling, you don't have to be trained in it, but life is much easier when you understand those basics, then you actually Google better, and maybe that makes a jump from Google to Gen AI a little bit less of a jump. But I do want to talk about other skills, not just prompt engineering skills, because I think you need to understand at least some of it, how deep. And I like your very legal answer. It depends on what your goal. That Kat, that totally made it super clear.
You know,
Thank you for that, Gem, for the
well,
it depends.
I think the barrier of entry is low, but the ceiling of excellence is high. And so it's not that it depends on do you need it? You need it. You need to be baseline conversant in it, period. But there's going to be a whole cohort they're going to excel way beyond what I need to do for the way I use it. And so, yeah, low floor, low barrier of entry, high ceiling is what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about other skills, because there are other skills besides prompt engineering. I think we agree that at least base level is needed, but you can aim high. I mean, most lawyers are such underachievers. Why aim low? Why? How can you do epic with basic, right? I mean, we need to do a lot more. We often do a lot more. But let's go to other skills. How do you future proof your career? What other skills do you need to succeed in this AI-led economy?
I think the human is becoming more important. And so not thinking of technical skills, I think your subject matter expertise, the 1 trillion synapses between your ears and your area of expertise are going to be what, when partnered with technology, is the most useful. And so if you're a contracting guru, really dig into that, because you'll be able to do more in less time leveraging technology, but your subject matter expertise will differentiate you. I weirdly think, people process technology is sort of what everyone talks about with innovation and transformation. Yes, we're having a technology renaissance, but I think it's an opportunity for the people to upskill, to improve workflow, and to leverage technology better. And I think that's weirdly, in my mind, it's humans, not like in a Soylent Green sort of way, but it's humans that are the delta. And it's an opportunity if you have niche expertise to, learn the tech, but also keep refining that skill.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly it. I think lawyers, you need to, I think first things first, it's just accepting, right? And not shying away. I think the big mental shift that happened with ChatGPT is the fact that people realized, oh, this is how I can be using this in my day-to-day work, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you use Netflix, you don't really think about, oh, well, the same recommendation engine that's powering Netflix could help me group together like clauses in a contract use case, right? Because it's so far away, even if the underlying technology might be similar, right? But when you're just having a conversation and having it generate text to you, and you see that happen instantly, then you naturally think, well, this thing I did at work the other day, I could be using this for, right? And so I really think that having a curiosity and just thinking not in ways of, oh, I'm afraid it's going to replace me, but really thinking of the stuff that you're doing every day and the stuff that you don't want to be doing and how technology can help with it. I think that proactive curiosity of wanting to lean in and learn how these technologies can help, I think it's the big differentiator in this kind of pre-chat GPT versus post-chat GPT, is the fact that people are accepting that this stuff is going to need to be adopted. And so I'm going to lean into it. And I think that's really what's changed for folks.
The adoption. I mean, once there's a South Park episode, not just about ChatGPT, but credited as a co-author for the script, right? We've seen it become so ubiquitous. It's on the same level as like Paris Hilton and Snooki, which is, makes me giggle, but it also shows when something becomes more ubiquitous, it becomes more normalized and familiarized. And so I think a lot of the black box barrier of entry fear people had is falling away. Like my nephew was telling me, he's like 8, he's like, I'm using ChatGPT to improve my Minecraft stats. I'm like, that's great. I don't know what that means, but good for you. And my grandma's using it. Like there's such a wide spectrum of people who've adopted this technology that it's making it easier for me to talk about adapting it professionally, which I think is for maybe what you and I do, really exciting, because there used to be a lot of resistance and hesitance for embracing tech by a lot of people. And I feel that is just, you almost have to tell people, hold your horses. Let's make sure it works first.
Mm-hmm.
So we are coming to the end. A few more questions, and I'm gonna prepare everyone. So we're gonna say goodbye. The goodbye is unavoidable. So you have about 5 to 7 minutes to prepare for it, and a few more questions. So, you audience, if you have questions, now is the time to ask because the clock is ticking. And otherwise, we have a few questions. I know, Mimi, you have a few questions.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I did want to just go a little bit back to the book that we all collaborated on and your chapter, Dance of the Data Dragons. Could you tell everyone just a little bit more about that chapter and what this kind of Dance of Data Dragons, means to you?
Well, so Game of Thrones is fundamentally about, positioning and battling and posturing yourself, which if that doesn't scream like litigation and e-discovery, then you're not paying attention, right? And so it always was kind of I watched it for all 8 years and as someone in e-discovery, and it always kind of struck me as, everyone trying to figure out that little whisper that's going to help them, little piece of information or connect the dots. And so I just thought it was a really fun metaphor to weave through all these kind of disparate, I don't know, themes about e-discovery, about, proportionality, about, balancing the accessibility of information, about reaching for all these new different players on the board and figure out how to kind of weave it together into one cohesive story. And I'm a dork. It was just fun to write.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the parts where the cute little dragons, became really massive weapons of distraction.
Well, as someone who was there when the first people were like, do you think this email thing's discoverable? Talk about a dragon that got big. It's Dracarys now.
I thought you may go there. Yeah, cute little dragons. They do grow up, and
Yeah.
they do blow fire. That stuff happens.
The dragon rider, right?
Yeah. No, that there's that. What is takeaway from that chapter? I mean, other than of course dragons do grow up, and you need to have skills to ride them. What
Yeah,
else?
I think it's just that, when you're looking at all the players in litigation, it sometimes can be that one tiny piece of information that is going to set you on a path to success or to failure, right? We saw little secrets unwind for so many different people in terms of a little small whisper turning into, I don't know, the dragon queen being killed by dragons, right? The whole thing, right? And so it just sort of says to me that it's important to kind of use the tools and techniques and things at your fingertips to find those secrets. And if that happens to be AI powered, more power to you.
Nice. And I mean, I do see one last question here from Jason, which I think we talked a little bit.
I think we did talk about it. I mean, if we can go there, or yeah. I mean, there is a rule of evidence that very much connects us back to litigation. We can go a little longer on that.
I think the key thing is there's rules in place, right? You've got admissibility barriers, right? Is deepfake evidence or video evidence always going to be relevant? Not if it's the only source of information, right? There's authentication, admissibility kind of hurdles people have to reach. There's already obligations for, for expert witnesses and for evidence validation. Where the wrinkle comes in is there's not very many tools and technology yet. Intel has one where it'll look for pixel level fluctuations under your skin that denote blood flow, humanity, which AI isn't generating yet. But I think even that will change. The speed that we're seeing people innovate with even the last 18 months is insane. So I think that it will be a deluge of claims of deep fakery. There will be deep fake evidence. And those of us at the intersection of law and tech have a fun time to kind of unwind it and hopefully not spend all of our time dealing with it, although it might be fun.
Nice. And I mean, and you even said like the development in the last 18 months has been very rapid. For you, what's the near term look like and what's the long term look like when it comes to this new era of legal AI that we're in?
I think there'll be hyper personalization. Like that's the thing I'm seeing, like just on the consumer grade level. Like I can make a video exactly how I want it by typing 5 words. I can, if I am not a person who should ever touch a paintbrush, I can still make an award-winning masterpiece. So hyper personalization applied to legal is, being able to build kind of taxonomies and have, clause generation super accelerated because you're melding your 1 trillion organic synapses with the how many teraflops of synapse that GPT-5 has. And so I think you're going to have, yes, off the shelf tech, but even more refinement of stuff that is designed for your practice area, your use case, or even your case, right? And that's exciting and challenging. And I mean, I think that that's the only way it can go. We've kind of gone from the big universe of we're connecting the dots and data to we're connecting it how you want to we're connecting it for you.
Well, the two of you are such a treat. I mean, we've covered dragons and litigation and e-discovery and all
Hey,
kinds of
I
stuff.
am a robot too. That's
And the robots
That
and
was a big reveal. Yeah.
hashtag almost passed the Turing test, right? Almost.
we can have this conversation all day. I heard you both. Please do not make me choose because it will be very hard. But I will ask you to give a takeaway, the actionable takeaway. What can an audience do to make sure that they're part of this new economy so that they can thrive, so they can go with it and not left behind? So Kat, I'll ask you first and then Mema, you'll be next.
Be curious and start using the tech daily. I use it before I Google now, right? And just start getting that comfort level and find your beautiful big brained people, which I think is a better euphemism than dorks, but find people that are passionate about this technology and follow them on social, talk with them. Don't go it alone because everything is transforming too fast for anyone to keep up with that fire hose of information. So find your tribe and start playing with the tech now. It's fun and it's incredibly useful, and you'd be amazed how much better you can get with just a few minutes a day.
Yeah. And I would just say, have confidence in yourself. I have people say, oh, my lawyers aren't allowed to use AI. It's like, well, should they use Google? Because I'm sure they've been using that for years. I tell folks, you think you can evaluate AI, but every time you get on Netflix and you can tell someone else watched it by the suggestions, you just evaluated AI, right? And so this is something that we have all been living and breathing for several years and probably even over a decade now. And so this is not something that's new and not something that you should be afraid of. You should be willing to lean in, especially when it comes to legal. If AI results in legal as suboptimal, as a lawyer, you will know really, really quickly, right? And so don't be afraid of that. Just dive in and you'll know. I have confidence that you'll know when things are working well and when they're not working well. And then I think that trust and self-confidence in yourself can go a long way.
I love it. Those are great insights. Kat, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you're joining. We've been planning this for a long time. So glad that we had to write a book to finally collaborate. We should do more, no pressure.
Yes.
That's what dorks and beauties do. I mean, come on, there's nothing else. And Meme, it's great to have you on the show to co-host. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And shout out to all the audience, Jason and Bill and a few others who've been asking great questions and participated and were part of the conversation. Always good to have you all on the show. And so thank you so much, everyone. I'll see you next time.
And that brings us to the end of another thrilling episode on the Notes to My Legal Self AI Insights. We had a fantastic time exploring the fascinating intersection of law and AI with you. But hold on tight because the adventure doesn't stop here. Stay connected with us on social media to continue the conversation, share your thoughts, and be part of our incredible community of legal enthusiasts. Together, we can inspire, learn, and make a real impact on the world of law and AI. If you enjoyed today's episode, we encourage you to share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else who could benefit from the exciting insights we discussed. Let's spread the knowledge and enthusiasm far and wide.